Our top story, tensions in the Korean peninsula are peaking. South Korea has scrambled its jets after Seoul detected about 180 North Korean warplanes. The North Korean jets were detected flying north of the military border for over 4 hours on Friday. South Korea's military says the North Korean aircraft flew north of the so-called tactical measure line. This line is drawn up to 20 kilometers north of the military demarcation line. The maneuvers came after North Korea fired more than 80 rounds of artillery into the sea overnight and the launch of multiple missiles into the sea on Thursday, including a possible failed intercontinental ballistic missile. In response, Seoul alerted its air force. South Korea has scrambled 80 aircraft. These include F-35 stealth fighters. Seoul is closely monitoring the situation, and this comes at a time when the US and South Korea have been holding massive military drills.
Ukraine's nuclear energy company says the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has been disconnected from the power grid due to Russian military activity in the area. The company said the power plant had just 15 days of fuel left to run the generators and would be switching part of the plant to a cold state to preserve energy supplies. Meanwhile, 7 ships carrying grain have left from Ukraine's Black Sea ports a day after Russia rejoined a scheme to allow its export. Moscow pulled out of the deal last week after an attack on its naval base in Crimea.
The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is in Beijing on a trip that's caused controversy in Germany and elsewhere in Europe. He's the first Western leader to have gone to China in over 3 years. At their meeting, China's President Xi told Mr. Scholz the need for cooperation between their countries had never been greater. But the German leader's been under pressure to raise human rights during his visit.
Receiving the red carpet treatment in Beijing, Chancellor Olaf Scholz is in China for a whistle-stop tour. Travelling with several German business leaders, the Chancellor commands no exception when it comes to China's strict COVID rules. He cannot stay overnight, so will be in and out again on the very same day. Regardless, China is welcoming the visit from a major European leader.
An Iranian court has ordered the execution of 7 anti-government protesters. It's part of a crackdown against demonstrations that have spread across the country over the past 6 weeks. The protests erupted after the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini. She died while being held by the country's so-called morality police for violating the government's dress code. Human rights groups say over 200 people have died so far in the unrest.
The body of Farouk Salameh is carried through the streets of Jenin in the north of the occupied West Bank, reported to be a prominent commander of the armed Islamic Jihad group. He died when Israeli forces raided a refugee camp. The group is calling it a cowardly assassination.
The reaction of the resistance will be God-willing inside Israeli cities. However, our main aim now in Jenin camp is to protect our people, land and camp.
The health ministry says a 14-year-old boy was also killed. Their deaths come as more than 30 diplomats visited Nablus and as Israeli forces lifted a 3-week siege of that city.
As the air pollution in the national capital Delhi worsened, pushing the AQI into the severe category, the Aam Aadmi Party-led Delhi government has announced the closure of all primary schools in the capital. The announcement was made by Delhi's CM Arvind Kejriwal. The CM also said that the government is contemplating on having odd-even scheme to check the pollution. Schools will remain open for secondary and higher secondary students, but no outdoor activities will be permitted.